Hi, I'm Paul Holtz, and welcome to this week's episode of ARS-TV, This Guy's Garage. A new member of my family has just been delivered last weekend, and I'm so excited to show it to you. But first, a little bit of history. When I was 12 years old, I used to watch ABC's Wide World of Sports, and I loved when Le Mans would come on. You know, with the movie Ford versus Ferrari, everybody kind of knows the story now. But the one thing that they didn't show in the movie was that Ford also won in 68 and 69 through a separate group called John Wyer's group, and they won in the same car in 1968 and 69. And I saw that when I was 12 years old, and it was in the Gulf livery colors, which is the light blue and orange, which is very famous around the world. And I was so excited and so impressed that I said to myself, someday I would love to be able to have a car just like that. 50 years later, my dream has finally come true. This is P2212. It is a copy of the original P1075 car that won Le Mans. Historically, the same car, same chassis, 2 years in a row. It is by far the most famous race car in the world because no other car has ever won the race twice using the same chassis. I'm so excited to show this to you today. Let's get started. So let me show you a little bit of the interior. The first thing that I noticed when it came off the transport is, let's open up this door, and you can see I was a little bit worried after getting the car that they sort of forgot something because there was no steering wheel. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's right-hand drive. Because once again, the Le Mans cars were right-hand drive. So a lot of people think that's weird. It's very common, you know, in different parts of the country. But the part is that that they did, and they were smart, was they knew that they were going to have a lot of American drivers that were going to be driving in these European circuits. So even though you'll see that the steering wheel is on the right-hand side, the shifting lever is also on the right. It's not in the center column, which made it very familiar and easy for the American drivers to instantly pick up because, you know, we're always used to using our right hands as we shift the gears. So let's go over and take a look at how it does look from the right-hand side of the car when you first get in. So one of the reasons that there's a removable steering wheel is because these GT40s, as incredible as they are, they're incredibly difficult to get into. A big guy like me, you literally have to avoid getting your head chopped off if a good gust of wind comes along and grabs this. And you have to get down low enough to where when you close it, you don't get a haircut. And so having the removable steering wheel really helps a lot. So let's go ahead and put that on. You've got these two little clips right here. So we're going to pull those. And there you go. Now you'll see that it's fully instrumented. It's got racing switches on virtually everything from fans to fuel pumps, to just all sorts of important things that you're going to be using during the race. Everything has a gauge from oil temperature, water temperature, fuel pressure. You can see that in typical Ford GT form, the speedometer itself is not important, so it's way over to the left. You'll see the most important gauge is right in front of you, which is the tachometer. Now this is the original wide body that they used in 68 and 69. The other Mark 1s, which is what this is based on, were not wide bodies, and this made a lot more room for 15-inch tires on the back. So they're actually 15-inch wide racing tires, so you get a lot of meat on the ground. But also what's important is this car was really set up as the original. We have side marker lights for the numbers on the rondelles. And the reason that this was important too is because when you're driving at night, like at Le Mans, you have to be able to see, the pit crew has to see your car as you're coming along. We have side marker lights. We have, you can see safety lights in the front, as well as a lot of different features that only race cars have, which would be like these bus switches that would cut your power in case of a fire. So we have one that's inside right here that we can turn on and off, and even an amateur would know that there's something electrical in here. Inside, we have one that the driver could get at as well. This cuts the main bus as well and turns everything on and off. And it actually makes it very convenient to turn on the interior for all of your different accessories and ignition. So we have a couple of different kill switches for that. You can see that we have safety markers on the side, which you would normally not see. Again, this is especially for at night. All the way, and it will hold itself. And here we go. So what this is, back in 1968, the FIA sanctioning board in Europe started limiting the size of the engines that could be used in the GT classes. So a lot of people think, well, why don't you have the 427 in it? Because that was famously used in the Ford versus Ferrari in 66 and 67. Well, they decided that they were going to start limiting it to 305 cubic inches. So it was the perfect way for the Mark I to come back into existence with modifications, and that's exactly what they did. Now you got to remember that they had a couple of years of development into the small blocks at that point. This car has a Boss 302 block, a roller block, and it has all the GT40 internals. It's topped with 4 two-barrel 48 IDA Weber carburetors, which were the same used in some of the small blocks originally, but now we had much better heads, much better flow. You can see the bundle of Snake's headers here, straight into the trumpets. This car doesn't have any mufflers or anything like that on it, and I can tell you it is loud. So I always have some earplugs in the car. But I can tell you it's the sweetest sound you ever heard at speed. So that's the engine. And then you have a 5-speed Quaife transmission. It's a transaxle. And that's actually a phenomenally popular and solid transaxle to be able to put the horsepower down. So this car puts out basically within about 10 horsepower of the original 427s, because once again, they had a couple of years of technology to be able to do that. So this car is actually just as fast as the Mark IIs, because it's also only 2,100 pounds, which is a lot lighter than the Mark IIs as well, because of that big 427. So what it lost in cubic inches, it's kind of made up in technology and weight savings. And then, of course, you've got all the best when it came to back then. It was all of the current state-of-the-art racing suspension technology. You'll see that everything has safety locks, safety wires. If you look over here, like just at a simple oil cap, you'll see that it's got some wire hold downs that keep it from breaking loose under racing conditions, and that's all over this compartment. Another amazing feature of this is that 2212 uses the original inline redundant fuel pumps that they had in the original P1075. These were actually manufactured almost 50 years ago by Stuart Warner. These are 145As. I don't even know where the guy got them to put them in this car, but they are really hard to come by, but they're absolutely accurate as to how this would have been done back then. And there are 2 of them in case of failure. So as you might guess, a race car loves to eat fuel. This one is no exception. And one of the things that they did back then was they had 2 fuel tanks. They have one on the left and on the right. And you can see that we have inlets, caps on both sides. And then down here, you can switch from a main tank to a reserve. This holds about 32 gallons total, 30 on the main tank. and then 2 on the reserve, and you just flip this over within the car. If you're out of gas during the race, you can flip it over and you can make it into the pits with that. Even though we're going into the winter, I'm really looking forward into next spring and next summer. I intend to obviously go to a bunch of cruise nights and share this with people. It's kind of a unique car that not a lot of people have seen in this area. So I'm very excited to show it and share it with them. But I really intend to do a lot of historical racing with this as well. Certainly we'll go to Blackhawk, Road America, all of the Midwestern tracks with it, and enter it in some of the historical races in the proper classes. But some of my dreams are to have it go around a couple of times at Sebring, at Daytona, and then if all the stars align, maybe someday I could get it over and have it on the track at Le Mans. So this has been my dream car my whole life. I'm so lucky to finally have it, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And allowing me to share it with you has been a lot of fun. So hope you enjoyed it. I'm Paul Holtz. Thanks for watching.